Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Man on Second podcast. My name is Eric Wiedeke. As always, I am joined by Joe Frisaro. Joe has been a well-traveled man of late in terms of his baseball watching. Joe's got an eye on everything lately, I hear.
Yeah. Yeah. And as we get the show started, you see, I got my 5 Reasons hat. Ethan finally took care of me on that. Obviously, you follow us on the 5 Reasons Sports YouTube channel and
Yep.
on Twitter on the @ManOn2ND Twitter account. And you see, we got the Man on Second MO2 shirts. I'm going to get Eric and Mike some of these as well as we move forward. And just kind of a reminder, we're branching out.
Yep.
Marlins are a big part of what we do, but they're not all what we do. We're a baseball podcast and a baseball. We got our eye on state, and we'll be talking the big stories in the sport as well. So, but I would like to start off with the Marlins because it was a nice win today. And kudos to you, Eric, because a couple of weeks ago you said keep an eye on Nick Fortes. Chipping into the playing time of Jacob Stallings and walk-off home run today for the kid.
Yep. I mean, Fortes is just a guy that even the balls that he hits that are outs, he's just a guy that has a knack for hitting the ball hard. And it's odd because I mean, he seems to be a much better hitter, at least thus far in his cup of coffee at the big league level, than he was at the minor league level. So it's just a very interesting note for him. I do think it's going to come down to where they kind of get to a point where, maybe it's 60-40 Stallings, but they're going to move a lot closer to, I think, a 50-50 share, especially if the team kind of, falls out of contention a little bit. They did stave that off today, didn't get swept by the Mets. I do want to give a shout out to Daniel Castano. I think he's been really good in his kind of, swing starter rep. I was impressed to see the fastball up at 93 for him today, which I thought was a really good sign. To have an uptick in velo for a guy like him. He's not going to strike a bunch of guys out, but he pitches pretty well.
Yeah, I agree. And I've always kind of liked Daniel. Back in 2020 during the COVID year when he got called up, he was pitching at Citi Field early on. Now, granted, there was no fans there. But,
Right.
He's one of those guys, like Fortes, where at the big league level, they seem very comfortable.
Yeah.
And lefty with pitchability, like you said, if he's throwing 93, but the breaking ball, he got out of trouble early. He kept it, it looked like things could have gotten, spiraled out of control early on him, but he kept pitching and getting big outs. And I always am a believer that guys like that kind of fifth starter, swing starter guy or long reliever are very valuable to your team because you're going to need them about 10 or so starts. And hey, if they develop into a regular part of the rotation, so be it. But you need more than 5 starters, as we know. And Daniel Castano was perfectly fine in that role. And 7 innings was huge. And, beating a good lineup. And, to the Mets' credit, they had the series won, but they ran out pretty much their A lineup, with Alonso and Lindor out there and, Brandon Nimmo and, and Marte, they're trying to win games. And the Marlins, to their credit, nice win. I'm not going to call it a big win because when you're 5 under, you're not there yet. But it was a nice win of 4-2 homestand, which is good. But Colorado is pretty bad. But to their credit, they took care of them. Now big series coming against St. Louis. But yeah, to Fortes real quick, 3 homers and 38 at bats since he got called up on May 27th, and you noted how that playing time with Jacob Stallings could break down. But it is interesting because Fortes has caught, he caught Cabrera, and Edward got hurt. He's caught Castano and he's catching Garrett. So at least they're kind of saying keep the guy if he's catching him in AAA, keep him there. I mean, it's nice to say, but if Jacob Stallings was hitting 250 with a 310 on base and about 6 or 7 homers, he'd be in the lineup pretty much every day but Sunday and maybe some day games after night games.
Yeah, and I think it brings up a very interesting point because I mean, I don't know how. I'd imagine if the Marlins play about 500 baseball, through the All-Star break, and they stay kind of in it, at least to the point where, they're 5-6 games out of the wild card, where they could feasibly think, all right, we can make a run. There's a chance, I think, by the end of July, if they do pull that, push the button on Max Meyer, Fortes would probably be the guy catching Meyer, just because he has more experience with him, on those days. And it's interesting you bring up the 3 home runs and 38 at bats. He did the same thing in September last year. I think he's got to have over a 500 slugging in the bigs so far.
I mean, it's easy to look up. I don't have in front of me.
But he's never. Yeah. But it's funny because he didn't really show that much power in the minors. But credit to him. He's clearly made a bunch of clearly made some adjustments, and he's not one to shy away from playing at that big league level. I do want to shout out Tanner Scott. I think his performance was really solid, especially from a guy that's coming into the 9th inning as the closer right now, but in a non-save situation. It feels like that's been a situation where the Marlins have struggled of late, going into the 9th inning in tied games or non-save situations. Mm-hmm. And, Scott, it's always a little bit of an adventure with him, but, he held the job down, kept it tied into the 9th inning for, Fortes to finish it.
Yeah, and that's a good point. And what I'm noticing with Tanner, and I tweeted it out the other day, he's throwing his fastball.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous that a guy throws 97 from the left side, and he's throwing 72, 73% sliders. And I don't care if that's his out pitch. You can't overload it. And he threw, 5 straight sliders in Philly, gave up the walk-off home run. And It seemed like that was the lesson learned. And it really shouldn't have come down to that, because you win that game just by, you don't overexpose your out pitch. It's overexposing it. You set up your out pitch. And so the fact that he's basically a fastball slider, okay, you could double it up, even throw 3 in a row. But if it's the only thing you're throwing to hitters and they know it, they're just going to sit on it and hope that you hang one. And it's an interesting point you've noted too, is if Scott doesn't do, or if, Scott did his job in the 9th, and if Fortes doesn't hit that homer, I'm not sure the Marlins win in extra innings. I think they're 1-4. Yeah. The bottom of the order is starting to come up. They could put Diaz into the game if you're the Mets, and you probably, if you can negate that, you could bunt the guy over and play for 1 run. I know a lot of teams look at extra innings as try to play for 2, especially the road team. That's why they don't usually bunt. They try to get 2 runs, because you kind of have the mindset we're going to give up 1. But, that could have been, a big homer for Nick Fortes again. Big moment in there for Tanner Scott. And a shout out to the Ole Miss Rebels. Nick Fortes' alma mater. They are the national champs in college baseball. So a good day for Nick Fortes. I guess I saw where he said his family was there. And so, having his parents in town to see that. Great moment for him. Marlins are on the road now. And, they got St. Louis, and that's going to be a big series for them, because that's a team ahead of them in the wild card chase. But let's make it clear, it looks like the only wild card that's up for grabs, probably the rest of the way, is going to be that 6th wild card.
Yep.
Yeah, and so you're going to have teams now. A team also in the mix just got a huge blow. The Philadelphia Phillies last night. Some real bad news. Blake Snell hits Bryce Harper on the thumb with a 97.2 mile an hour fastball, fractured left thumb on Bryce Harper. Terrible for Bryce, terrible for baseball and baseball fans. One of the true great players, the reigning National League MVP, who's having a monster year as well. He's down for a while. Just kind of your thoughts, and how does that affect the Phillies going forward?
I think it's a huge blow for the Phillies. I think in the immediate, you look at today's box score, you had Castellanos and Schwarber kind of step up. And Schwarber has done pretty much what Philadelphia assigned him to do. Yeah. I think if there's any one player that this squarely puts a lot of pressure on, it's on Nick Castellanos. Yeah. Because at least so far to this point, he's kind of underperformed, at least, in the context of his expectations. And so you're going to be looking at him to kind of carry that load and step up and be the guy that Philadelphia, ended up signing to that 5-year, $100 million deal. Because Harper, he wasn't playing in the field, but he was another bat in their line to kind of lengthen it for them.
Yeah.
And so it gets shorter. And when you're Philadelphia, they win games by outslugging their opponents.
Yeah. And did so
And
again today.
yeah,
8-5.
exactly.
And we're doing this Sunday, just
Yeah.
for people that are tuning in. This is Sunday post game Marlins.
And so to lose a guy like Harper, who is, I mean, if Paul Goldschmidt, wasn't, red hot, Harper would probably be, somewhere in that MVP conversation right now again.
Yeah. Yeah. Harper, he called it, his quote, it's just a gut punch. That's what he said post game yesterday. He's batting .318, as you noted, one of the top hitters in the National League, 15 bombs, 48 RBIs, 984 OPS. It's just hard. And you're right. I circled that and said, look, this is where the Phillies, they signed Kyle Schwarber, Nick Castellanos to lengthen that lineup, and both guys needed to step up. And then today, they did, with Castellanos going 4 for 5. But as his batting average now after this big day, 252 batting average, 7 homers, 37 RBIs, 693 OPS. Not Nick Castellanos like at all. And why I'm not super worried about him is 276 lifetime batting average with an 806 career OPS. I think you got to go about 6-7 years to find him with under a 700 OPS, and that's low for him. He'll be, I do expect Castellanos to have a stronger second half. And why I say that is, I think, yes, he was in the National League last, couple of years with Cincinnati, but he's in the NL East with some great starting pitching. I think there's a little bit of an acclimation to that. Just because you're playing in Philly doesn't automatically mean it's a hitter's ballpark, as we know. But as you noted about Schwarber, 21 bombs, but he's hitting like, 215 or 2 whatever. I wrote it down. I can't see it, but he's in the low 200s. But the slugging is there. Kyle Schwarber is there, but they still got a dangerous lineup even without Bryce,
absolutely.
because you're going Schwarber. Reese Hoskins has had a really good year. Castellanos is a threat. Real Muto's a threat. Didi Gregorius is there. But I wouldn't be surprised if we see the Phillies try to make a move. They have to. They're 3 or 4 over 500. Dave Dombrowski is a guy who makes moves. I don't know how much you want to part with, but I could see them, trying to do something to maybe bring in a bat. Maybe they're a little more proactive. We talked about this before. I'm so surprised that we haven't seen trades already.
Yep.
As somebody tries to get ahead of the market with at least somebody, even if it's, just a solid player. And I get it. More teams feel they're in it. But I do think there are trades to be made with clubs, because I think the Marlins are going to be buyers sellers, meaning, they may trade, a player or two off the big league roster, and they may also part with somebody on the big league roster. I could see the Phillies trying to get somebody to lengthen that lineup, because what losing Bryce Harper does, outside of you can't replace all that he brings, is now what happens if something happens to any of their other players?
Right.
You're already, now your depth is really thin, and there's still a lot of baseball to be played.
Yeah, and that's where Philadelphia, I think, it hurts them the most, because Harper had already, pretty much been exclusively DHing at this point, which was a blow to them, because if they needed to give, Schwarber or Castellanos a day off in the field, they had to go with a non-Harper option. And then you lose the bat on the other end of that. And so it's just, this is why teams accumulate depth in the offseason, so that they have suitable guys to come up to at least fill the void for, the month and a half, 2 months that Harper is going to be out, what have you. And I do think it's interesting to see that they might look for a bat on the market. I feel like you could probably do both, but if I had to, make a coin flip, or if I had to make a call on it, I would imagine Philadelphia might kind of see Harper as that quote unquote deadline acquisition, and maybe shift their focus to the bullpen.
Well, they could do that as well. But what I'm saying is, sometimes you could just make that
Right.
Nelson Cruz type deal. You know what I
Absolutely.
mean? And the Nationals, could be open for business to get somebody like that. You find that team that's kind of sinking fast, and you might have something that you're not parting with any of your top prospects
Right.
or people you regret moving. And you don't want to get too desperate either if you're the Phillies, because even at 3 over, that's what Marlin fans got to realize. Even at 3 over, you're still kind of out of it.
Right.
Because I still think National League is probably going to take probably 88 or so wins, I think, for that third wild card, to get in. And so you got to be trending in that way. As we're seeing in that wild card race, those teams are fairly even.
Yep.
And obviously, the Padres have weathered, being without Machado for a while, obviously without Tatis, and the Dodgers are missing Mookie Betts, but they're the Dodgers.
Right.
I just see that it should be very active very soon. But there's a team right across the state of Florida, Eric, that seems to lose players to injury and still find a way. And it's Tampa Bay Rays. Completed a sweep of the Pittsburgh Pirates, and at least 2 of those games it look like they're headed to lose. And the Isaac Paredes has kind of become this late clutch guy, and they traded Austin Meadows to Detroit for
Yep.
him, and that's that's the type of moves the Rays make. He had 3 hits today in their win. Big day for the Rays too, because Wander Franco comes off the IL. He had been out with a quad injury, I believe it was, and then Shane McClanahan today kind of established himself as the best pitcher in baseball statistically. Now the ERA leader, 7 innings, 1 run, 99 pitches, 10 Ks, no walks. What's he at? 177, I think, is his ERA.
Yep.
Yeah. And he leads the majors in Ks at 123, I believe it was. And I think the number 2 in ERA is Sandy Alcantara. So, we talked about wanting to see those 2 starting in the All-Star game, and both are certainly having a great year.
Yeah, I think the Rays do exactly what, they're just a factory. They do exactly what you want out of a baseball team. They seemingly know exactly when the right time. They just, the front office there, and I can't express it enough. They know the exact right buttons to push. You go out and you trade Austin Meadows for Isaac Paredes, and a lot of people kind of scratch their head at that. Paredes was a guy that had a lot of potential in Detroit, but maybe just needed to change the scenery, and now he's OPSing to the tune of 927 in the middle of their lineup. And then on top of that, whenever your team is hit with a bunch of injuries, the mantra is just, let's keep our heads above water, and then when we get our guys back, we can make the move. The Rays have exemplified that. Sure, they're third place in the AL East at the moment, but they're still a very competitive ball club. I think their record is 40-34 now.
40-32. I think they're 8 over.
32, 8 over.
Yeah, as a Sunday night, 40 and 32.
Exactly. And then on top of that, you've got McClanahan. They recently got Baz back. Luis Patino made a rehab start in AAA today. He's going to be on the mend. Wander Franco just returned. It feels like the Rays they did everything that they had to do, and now all of a sudden you're going to start to see the reinforcements come, and it's going to be, here come the Rays, and I think we're going to get a very competitive AL East despite the Yankees' dominance.
Yeah, I agree, and I think catching the Yankees may be a little too steep a task right now, because they're over 50 wins already.
Right.
They're on their way to 100, but I think the Rays will factor into one of those 3 wild cards. And why do I say that? Everyone says, what's the secret formula, whatever, or the Marlins be like the Rays, or other teams be like the Rays. They're super athletic, and they play matchups better than probably anyone. They figure out the right matchups. Everyone has data, everyone has analytics, and everyone looks at stuff, but not every formula seems to be the right one to go by. But super athletic guys, Vidal Brujan, that guy plays second. He played short when Franco was out. They got Taylor Ward, who could play really good defensively up in the middle. Kiermaier's out now, and that's a big blow for them. But you got a kid like Brett Phillips, who was super fast in center. Bruhan can go out to center if they need to. And this is where, and I'm going to just bring this up and tie it into the Marlins, where the other day when Willens Estudito, when Jazz came out of the game and he had the awkward, play at second, just his lack of athleticism, created something. And I want athletic middle infielders. I want, and what they do, they DFA'd Estudillo and they bring up Eric Gonzalez. I know parts of social media don't like that, but Eric Gonzalez can field, and he's a versatile athletic player.
Yep.
And I heard one of the announcers in one of the games I watched today note, if you're not going to outmash people and you're struggling hitting, you can win games with your defense.
Yep.
And there's a lot of different ways to win games, and the Rays can do that. They can win 2-1. And why do they win 2-1? They may make a throw, they may make a play in the field. They have the athletes to do it. That's why I love athletes. And they go first to third. They score from first on extra base hits. They overcompensate, mistakes in the field because they can cover ground. They react better, and that's where the secret formula is. It's not just throwing guys based on OPS or splits and just playing it that way. I think they do that better than pretty much everybody. Dodgers may do it better than them, but the Rays are right up there.
I mean, the Dodgers have infinite resources. So that's.
I know what you're saying, but I'm still going to give them credit.
No, absolutely. Yeah. No, but the Rays, it feels like they have, a lot of teams fall in love with loud tools, and the Rays do that in their bullpen. Don't get me wrong. But if you look at their team, and they have those guys. I mean, Wander Franco's got as high a ceiling as anybody, but they've got a bunch of guys that are versatile, that are guys that kind of they're jack of all trades, but really a master of none. They don't have a lot of one-dimensional players. And so they've got a bunch of guys that can do a little bit of everything. And that versatility, like you said, it gives them the ability to play the matchups better than anyone else, because you don't need to worry about, oh, well, if I take this guy out, this means taking another bat out of my lineup because this guy can play 3 different positions. So I don't need to worry about, taking one of my better players out to give this guy, a spot in the lineup. They can play all of their good players just about because they all play. They're also versatile.
Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, Harold Ramirez has been playing first base. I don't even remember the Marlins even attempting Harold, playing the position. But what they do is, you have your third baseman, Yandy Diaz, goes and plays first. If they're doing a platoon thing with Choi, it's like then he goes back to third. They shuffle everyone around. Why is Miguel Rojas so valuable for the Marlins? Because he can play first if they needed him to, if they made a defensive switch, he can move over to first, and he's their best first baseman defensively, as well as being their best third baseman. If the year that Miggy was going all over the diamond, he was their best infielder no matter where he played, like in about 2018 when Miggy really started playing a lot. And that's why he's a valuable player, to a team like the Marlins. One of those jack of all trades the Marlins have in Joey Wendell. He had a couple of hits and a home run today off Luis Patino, because in AAA Jacksonville they played against Durham, the Rays AAA team. That game went on this afternoon. That was one of the many games I was watching on either devices or my TV. And I was watching the Rays, I was watching the Marlins and others. We hit on McClanahan, we hit on them. McClanahan, I think people need to wake up to just how good he is. Because it's one thing to have that much movement, that much life, and 0 walks with 10 Ks, 4 hits today. Guys like that usually are walking 3 or 4 guys a game, just because to change everything he throws, 100 with the wipeout slider. I don't know if there's a better 3 or so combination pitcher in the sport right now.
Yeah, the things that he does, specifically from the left side, and that's what makes it unique. I mean, everybody, you constantly hear about the best pitchers in the league, and you hear about, the DeGroms and the Scherzers. And it's interesting to me because this year I think really you are seeing kind of a coming out party for a lot of pitchers, McClanahan being one of them. Uh the stuff that he does specifically from the left side, he it's 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 one of the most impressive displays I've seen from a lefty in a long time. I mean, he is absolutely up there stuff for stuff with DeGrom.
Yeah. Yeah, because DeGrom would throw 100 and have the best slider in
Yep.
baseball. Now this guy's basically from the left side throwing
Yeah,
100
exactly.
with the best slider in baseball from the left side, and the changeup is filthy as well.
Yep.
And what we're seeing as he matures, 7 innings on 99 pitches today.
Yep.
So he's not just a 5 1/3 guy anymore. He seemed to be that earlier because coming in, I thought he might not be a starter. I thought he might end up being just a great closer. And that would have been fine. But
Yep.
if you're 7 innings, he's on his way to being, that 7, 8, 9 is his innings are only about 10 to 15 less than Sandy. I think, something right in that range, but he's way up there. He's logging his innings and making quick work out of pretty much everyone.
Well, that's one of the big things that pitchers have to learn as they get to the big league level. And that's where a lot of guys kind of stop in their progression. Is learning how to navigate a lineup. And when a pitcher learns how to navigate a lineup and cuz and you'll hear Sandy talk about it, and I'm sure it's the same thing with a guy like McClanahan. As guys get more savvy, they learn how to kind of pick their spots. And do I really need to strike out the side every inning? No, you don't. Because if you want to give your team the best chance to win, and pitchers are always going to be competitive, they're always going to think, my team has the best chance to win with the ball in my hand. And so if you want to maximize that, you want to go 9 innings. And I don't think there's a starter in baseball that doesn't want to go 9 innings. And so a guy like McClanahan learning how to navigate a lineup and do it efficiently, that's when you hit that next level, and you become one of those guys that's a horse that you can count on for 200 innings every year.
Yeah. Obviously, you health is something, but that
Right.
he's really a special pitcher, and state of Florida guy from University of South Florida. And you want to talk about next level. Aaron Judge might be the best player in baseball overall. He hit a 3-run homer today in the 10th inning, and the Yankees. They bounced back from being no hit yesterday by the Houston
15
Astros.
straight innings.
And they went 15 straight innings without a run. We know there are a lot of Yankee fans out there, and we could touch on them. I think Stanton hit 17 today for Giancarlo. So Stanton's doing his thing. Judge has 26 or so now, and big bounce back win. But I wanted to talk a bit about the Yankees and the fact that they were no hit yesterday by the Astros. The Astros are a team that trains down here. I see a lot of them in spring training in West Palm Beach. And like everything, we want people to go up into the Palm Beaches. We have 4 really good teams, there for spring training. The combined no-hitter, it just didn't seem to get the kind of buzz. Is the no-hitter losing its steam? Or, I know it always seems to be better, but didn't seem like it was the biggest story of the day on Saturday. And, Christian Javier, 7 no-hit innings in the combined no-hitter. But hit the Yankees. They're averaging 6 runs a game, basically.
Yeah.
It's like to no hit them. That's pretty phenomenal. In the game that Garrett Cole's pitching,
Right.
It's like that game I thought should have gotten a little more attention.
Yeah, and I think it's a shame because Christian Javier pitched probably one of the best games we're going to see a pitcher pitch all season. Because he didn't just go 7 no-hit innings. He went 7 no-hit innings, and he struck out 13 batters and only walked 1. And so it's kind of going to be buried underneath, I'll just put it out there. There's some no-hit performances that went the 9 innings that are less impressive than what Christian Javier did in 7. I don't want to call anybody out, but there might be one Marlins performance that I'm thinking of specifically. But yeah,
Maybe 2.
Yeah, a couple. I do think it's I do think it's it's unfortunate because I think that's going to be one of the best pitching performances of the year that kind of just gets swept under the rug from him.
Yeah, and I look at it this way: you got an age of shifting, and you
Yeah,
got an age of pitchers max efforting. If you go 4 1/3 innings, they're ready to make you pitcher of the week now if you strike out 8, and because you're just leaving it all out there, you're max efforting, and I don't like that style of baseball. I don't like that style of grooming pitchers, and that's why I like seeing McClanahan. Obviously, I love Sandy Alcantara going as deep into games as he does. But you also have extreme shifting where at any time someone in the first, second, or third inning can drop a bunt and break up a no hitter because
right.
half of the infield is on the other side of the infield. That it's really hard to throw a no hitter, even a combined no hitter.
Absolutely.
And I think we're moving to the age more because the complete game for a starter is harder to accomplish. But I think they should be celebrated. I don't care. Hit the New York Yankees. Hit anybody. That's a great team achievement. If it's a team achievement or personal, I know. Yes, I'm as traditional as anyone about baseball, but I've also evolved as much as anyone too. I feel I'm as current as I am old school, and I don't think it should be diminished. I don't think it should be. I think people in Houston, hey, the Mets have had 2 no hitters.
Yep.
And one was combined, and I don't think they felt it was cheap in any way.
No, absolutely.
It's like you get that if even if you get an injury early in the game, your starter comes out 2 or 3 innings, and your bullpen. I think the Astros did a few years back against the Yankees. They had like a starter leave in the first inning, and they combined as like eight or 9 pitchers to a no hitter.
Yep.
That is really hard.
That's extremely impressive.
Yeah, and yeah, I think the team that loses tries to poo-poo it, but yeah, it's not Nolan Ryan throwing 7 or Sandy Koufax with like 4
Yep.
with a perfect game. It's that should be accomplishment and a great feat by the Houston Astros. But man, the season's shaping up pretty well. I think
Yep.
that we're getting it's almost July now, and teams are starting to figure out who everyone is. And I think we got a lot of wide open races still, in terms of wild card. I think there's some
Yep.
clarity at the top of divisions. But, do you think from what you saw from the Mets, do they still worry you a little bit, or you think that they got it figured out?
I don't worry for the Mets as far as I think they're going to miss the playoffs or anything like that. I worry for the Mets in that there's some other really great teams in the National League. And when you're as good as the Mets have been through, almost half the season now, they have bigger aspirations than just making the playoffs at this point. And so, I worry for them specifically because they have to be in the same division with Atlanta. And I think I still Atlanta just would scare the daylights out of me if I were the Mets. But that said, I think the Mets they're gonna get the ground back at some point. Scherzer's not long off. Tyler Meagle's gonna come back at some point this year. They will continue to get better, and then you just hope that if you're the Mets, that you didn't peak too early, that you can hit your stride come August, September as well. I do agree with what you said a few days ago. I think Buck Showalter is not the type of manager that's going to just, allow for a disastrous collapse. But I do think there's some other really good teams in the NL that the Mets, obviously need to worry about.
Yeah, I mean, there's still, the season. There's a reason why the season playoffs aren't decided by July 1.
Right.
Usually the season kind of starts in August. And because then you start seeing the attrition, you start seeing how guys are doing. And then, you're going to have right through that trade deadline on August 2nd, which would be really lively, especially, as we move forward. But great episode as always, Eric. Remind everyone how to follow us. We're going to keep doing this and we're going to be covering a lot of ground, and it should be fun races and a fun, busy week in baseball again.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it, Joe. As always, you can find us at the Five Reasons Sports YouTube channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe to increase our reach so that you can see our uploads more often and in a more timely fashion. You can also follow us on Twitter at Man on Second. That's going to be at Man on 2ND to see all of our commentary throughout the week, when we're not necessarily in front of a camera. So thank you guys, and we will see you next time.